Hey everybody, it's Stacy with ATM Aquarium Products and Blue Shark Trading, and I wanted to do a quick little talk and interview with Paul Curtis. He's the creator of MinnFinn with Aquafin. He works in aquaculture. He works with large water, small water, all kinds of stuff, and probably a lot of stuff I don't even know. But the MinnFinn product is there in the UK, so it's a brand new product, and treatments are they're not easy to come by, and this is a really good one. So I wanted to let Paul kind of tell you the story about MinnFinn and how he developed it. But first, how you doing, Paul? And tell us about your background and how you got started in all this.
Excellent. Thanks, Stacy. I'm happy to be here today, and thanks for your introduction. I'm doing great and happy to explain a little bit about me and the MinnFinn product. I started off many years ago at the University of Guelph getting a marine biology degree, and then went on and did my master's degree in reproductive physiology. I always had a really strong interest in, did some a class in that when I was an undergraduate, then also continued on with 3 years at the fish pathology lab at the University of Guelph, where I was at, and that was actually under the faculty member of Hugh Ferguson, who is now at Stirling University in the UK. So after that, I became a hatchery manager at a couple of different facilities and maintained a really strong interest in doing fish health all through that tenure. Working with anything from bacteria, parasites, through viruses, nutritional deficiencies, you name it. I think I've seen a little bit of everything over the years. In my time as a hatchery manager, I was introduced to this chemical, parasitic acid, and looked at the ingredients and thought it might make a good fish medication. So I started doing some investigations, did some in vitro work on the bench top, and also then did some work on fish, looking at the toxicity of the product to some and gradually worked through to the point where I have the product now today. I found it worked really, really well on protozoal parasites, external bacterial infections, and it also even had efficacy against larger parasites like flukes and anchorworms. So I was pleased with the results that I was seeing and decided to go ahead and package it and market it. And out of all the things that I've used over the years, and not just because I'm the one that sort of manufactured and developed it, I haven't really seen anything that's easier to use than the MinnFinn. A couple of the biggest things for me, and one of the reasons I wanted to go ahead and get this on the market was that it's non-toxic. So I'm sure anybody that's kept fish over the years has used products with malachite green and formalin in them. And both of those are known carcinogens. And, it's something that, may not necessarily impact you or your fish now, but, may see tumors in your fish years down the road. Whereas the MinnFinn is non-toxic. It's if you get it on your fingers, it's like getting concentrated hydrogen peroxide on your fingers. It may burn a little bit, but it's not going to cause any long-term effects. The other thing about MinnFinn is I developed a neutralizer for it as well. So after the hour treatment, you add the neutralizer and it's gone. It's like it was never there. All you're left with is water, carbon dioxide, and oxygen. So you don't have to do any water changes, nothing. Whereas malachite green and formalin, you're either waiting for it to be absorbed by the organics in your aquarium, or you have to do a full water change. So there's those advantages as well.
Well, I know with we've known each other for about 15 years or so. I think we met in when I was living down in Vista, and we're no stranger to new kind of scientific technologies and trying to bring them to market and tell the story. And it's I know how difficult that can be. With the products that we develop at ATM, and before ATM it was Superback, and that's when we met before we rolled up with ATM and all that. So what would you say, like for instance with nitrifying bacteria, things like that, we have the typical questions that customers will ask us, or issues that they'll have, or maybe some things they don't understand. What are some top things that consumers and hobbyists might not obviously know about this treatment? or maybe not even think to ask that might, get them to fully understand the benefits of it, or how to explain it, or, what are some of the hurdles that you've seen stand in the way to fully understanding what MinnFinn is?
That's a really good question. I think people often think it's too good to be true. I've heard that one quite a bit, that there is a product out there that's very broad spectrum, that is non-toxic and is neutralizable, so that once you're done, it's gone. I know that seems to be a difficult concept to appreciate sometimes. And people also get the difference between non-toxic and efficacy sort of mixed up a little bit. Like I just recently was emailing with a customer that had an issue with a fish that was really sick, and it during the treatment, and I was trying to explain that that's not abnormal for any treatment, that if you had a population of fish that were infected, this just happened to be one fish that was in really bad shape, the rest of the population wasn't too bad, and it died during the treatment. Well, the rest of the fish are fine, doing healthy, and this one died. And he's telling me that I was saying that the product's non-toxic. Well, non-toxic means it's not going to have any long-term effects, so you're not going to get cancer from the product you're using, or your fish aren't going to get cancer from the product you're using. So that's kind of a difficult concept to sometimes get across. I don't care what medicine you're using, and you can kill all your fish with any medication if you don't use it correctly. You can have a fish die when you use any treatment. Just if the fish is too far gone, the treatment can often push them over the edge, and that one is going to die. The challenge for the home aquarist or the pond keeper is to save the rest of the population. Often when you start treating, you're treating to prevent more mortality. The fish that are too far gone already, those ones are going to probably die anyways. So that's another challenge, and another sort of challenge rather for people to get to understand.
We've run into that too, and a lot of times, to fully, know what to expect and be realistic, I've had to explain to people, even with something like ATM Colony, yes, it's non-toxic, but you know what? If you displaced half the aquarium and replaced it with Colony, well then yeah, it would probably be toxic. There's ridiculous limits. And another one is lanthanum chloride. There's been, there was, rumors and things about, effects from lanthanum chloride, which we've never been able to replicate, and it was, I think the one was with yellow tangs specifically, and so it was well, why did Dan's yellow tang survive but Jan's yellow tangs didn't? Well, obviously if it's going to be toxic for one, it's going to be toxic for all of them pretty much. But then there's the case that you said. I even noticed one customer called me and every time they used Agent Green, one of the hippo tangs would just go hide and freak out. So it's like, well, some fish can have a psychological problem too. They're just they're afraid of a cloud. I don't. So there's always little things like that you can't account for, that you could never account for. So basically, I think that's. I think the most important thing which I'm glad you explained, is the expectations of what's realistic to expect. Like in the case of the really far gone fish.
It's impossible. There's going to be fish that, depending on the level of infection, damage, whether it be external or internal, are just not going to make it. And you could have one fish in an entire population that's sick. And, I hear people say, oh, they've got parasites one week, bacteria the next week. Well, what that tells me is that there's something else going on with that fish. The bacteria and the parasites are probably secondary to maybe a tumor or some really nasty viral infection that's primarily causing the fish to go downhill. And it's difficult. I mean, I've been doing this for many, many years, and I'm always happy to talk to people on the phone about their problems and try to explain what's going on. Sorry. what's going on, and to help them understand. I mean, it's difficult because the diagnostics and the clinical evaluations and things like that, there's just so many combinations and permutations that can occur. And to fully understand a problem is difficult. So, it's our jobs to try and provide, knowledge and products that are going to best suited for the situation and to help as much as you can. And the outcome is not always going to be perfect.
Yeah, that's right. And to me, I've always been an advocate for not only having a good product, but following it up with a unique and important education on what you're doing. Like with Colony, it was always important to us from the beginning. And even with Agent Green, there's a lot to know about this that's not like immediately obvious. So to get that education on nitrifying bacteria, if they can understand it, then when they'll know what to make of the results based on what's happening. Because as we all know, with a lot of folks that are just getting into the hobby or at the, getting towards the intermediate level, usually the last thing I put in is what did all the harm. And that's hardly ever the case, because there's a reason you started putting something in to begin with. So what was going on with that? So that's, and I think the other thing with MinnFinn that I've always really loved, I mean, it's super convenient. The easier we can make not only keeping fish, but treating them. And I think not only is it convenient for new hobbyists with, medium to smaller tanks, but MinnFinn starts to really get advantageous the bigger systems you're working with. As you get bigger and bigger and bigger systems, that neutralizing thing becomes just amazing because you're dealing with a lot of work there to remove a traditional treatment.
Yeah, water changes. Anybody who's had a tank, especially a bigger one, is a bit of a pain in the rear end. And especially now you start looking for pond owners. Now you're looking at cost. When you're having to change thousands of gallons of water, now you're looking at the cost of the water. So it becomes financial once you get into the really large systems.
Yeah, media changes in a lot of cases, and then you're going to have the secondary effects of some. You might have. Like if you're having to remove like copper or something like that, and you've got to change, pull it out with media, and not only you're changing water, you're changing media, and it's this big this big production, and I think making this easier is awesome.
And a lot of these treatments, I mean, any treatment that's worth its weight in whatever is it can theoretically impact the biofilter. I mean, they're not specifically designed to kill the good bacteria or the bad bacteria and not the good bacteria. They're just specifically. So the benefit with the MinnFinn, since it's only a 1 hour treatment, you can turn the filter off, you can bypass it. Typically what I suggest to people is that, while you're doing your treatment, do your filter maintenance. Take the filter off, whatever you need to do, clean it, and get it ready to go once the treatment's over, and you'll be golden. So it's only an hour long.
I was going to ask too, what have you been doing these days? You were telling me you're doing some stuff down in Mexico.
Yes, yeah, I'm working on a couple of projects in Mexico. My aquaculture consulting side of the business, I do fish health for help with companies that are looking to develop. I also design and build housing systems. So I've been designing and building systems for an algae down in Mexico, where we're raising macroalgae, and it's actually being ground into a flour to be used in pasta and other products. And then I've also been working with an abalone farm. So I'm helping them developing some recirculating water systems, so that they have better water quality for their broodstock and for their juveniles, the early rearing systems, so they can better feed them, get better quality larvae and better quality juveniles to put out into the farm. So those are a couple of the interesting projects I'm working on right now. Do you have any questions about a fish health issue you're going through that is mystifying you? I'm happy to help as much as I can from a distance. I'm always able to look at pictures and give my opinion, so I'm happy to do that too.
I urge everybody to take advantage of that. Take advantage of the help. All right. Thanks for giving me some time this morning, Paul. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Stacy. Take care. I look forward to talking to you soon.